You know, every time we send an email, post a photo, or fire off a quick message, we're doing more than just communicating. We're leaving clues. Today, we're going to put on our detective hats and follow the hidden forensic trails that get left behind in our digital world.
Seriously, think about it for a second. You hit send on an email, and poof, it just disappears from your screen and shows up on someone else's, maybe thousands of miles away, almost instantly. It feels like magic, right? But it's not. So what's actually happening in that tiny sliver of time? Where does that message really go?
Well, that journey, as fast as it is, creates this invisible trail of data, like a series of digital breadcrumbs. And, for a forensic investigator, that trail tells a whole story. It can show the exact path a message took, where it started, and sometimes, the biggest question of all, who really sent it? So today, we're going to follow those breadcrumbs.
All right, first up, let's talk about the original digital message, the email. Before we can figure out how to investigate an email, we got to understand the hidden system that makes it all work. The best way to think about it, it's like a super fast, completely invisible post office.
So, the whole thing starts with what's called a Mail User Agent, or MUA. Don't let the fancy name fool you. This is just the app you use for your email. You know, Gmail on your browser, Outlook at the office, the Mail app on your phone. That's your MUA. It's basically your personal counter at this digital post office.
The second you hit send, your MUA passes your email off to a mail transfer agent, the MTA. Now, this is the real workhorse of the system. The MTA is the post office itself. It's a server that grabs your email, looks at the address, and then smartly zips it across the internet to another server closer to where it's going. And the final piece of the puzzle is the Mail Delivery Agent, the MDA. Once your email gets to the right neighborhood, let's say, the MDA acts like your local mail carrier. It handles that last mile, taking the message and putting it right into the recipient's inbox, ready and waiting. So there you have it, the whole system laid out. The MUA is where you write it, the MTA sends it, and the MDA delivers it. But wait, how do you actually get your mail? That's where POP3 and IMAP come in. They're just two different ways of retrieving messages. POP3 is kind of old school. It downloads the mail to your device. IMAP, on the other hand, keeps everything synced on the server, which is probably how you're using email right now.
Okay, so this is a really important distinction. That whole sending process we just talked about, the MUA to MTA handoff, that's all handled by a protocol called SMTP, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. Think of it as the internet's push system. But POP3 and IMAP, they're the pull system. They're what you use to grab the mail that's waiting for you. So sending and receiving are actually two totally different jobs.
So now that we see how the system is supposed to work, let's look at how it gets broken, because this amazing, efficient system can also be a tool for fraud, harassment, and all sorts of other crimes. And that's when a simple email suddenly becomes a critical piece of evidence.
And believe me, investigators see it all. You've got email spoofing, which is just faking who you are, phishing, where they try to trick you into giving up your passwords. There are even denial of mail attacks that just flood a server to crash it, email bombing to overwhelm a single person's inbox, and of course, good old-fashioned spam. So let's say a crime's been committed. How does an investigator even start to untangle this mess? Well, they open up their digital toolkit. This isn't about wild guesses. It's a very clear, systematic way of following that breadcrumb trail we mentioned earlier.
The official process is broken down into 4 key phases. First, you need the legal authority to search for and seize the digital evidence. Second, you have to collect all that data, very, very carefully. Third, and this is where the magic happens, is the examination and analysis. And finally, everything has to be documented perfectly for reports and maybe even for court. Now, out of all the data an investigator might find, one piece is worth its weight in gold: the email header. You see the body of the email, right? The actual message? The header is the part you don't see. It's a hidden chunk of code that acts like a digital passport, and it gets stamped every single time the email passes through a server.
And inside that header, you find these stamps. A line that starts with received might just look like a bunch of technical gobbledygook to you and me, but to an investigator, this is everything. It shows which server got the email, where it came from, that server's unique IP address, and precise timestamp of when it happened. But here is the secret, the key to unlocking the whole thing. Every new server adds its received line to the top of the header. So, if you want to trace the email's true path all the way back to the beginning, you have to read the header from the bottom up. That last line is the first step in the journey, and that's often where you'll find the sender's real IP address.
Okay, so tracking an email is one thing, but what happens when the crime scene isn't an email server, but the wild, fast-moving world of social media? Well, the goal is the same, follow the trail, but the challenges are completely different.
And here's the biggest difference. Email evidence is usually static. It sits on a computer, maybe in an Outlook file. It doesn't change. Social media evidence is the exact opposite. It's dynamic. Someone can delete a post or a whole account in a heartbeat, and it's stored in the cloud on servers owned by huge companies. The evidence isn't on a local hard drive, it's out there on the internet.
So, how do digital detectives deal with this? How do they investigate a world where clues can just vanish into thin air? Well, they've got a whole different set of techniques designed to capture that evidence before it's gone for good.
Of course, there are the user posts themselves, but often the real clues are buried in the metadata. A geotag on a photo can literally place a suspect at a crime scene, but it goes deeper. That hidden data can also show the exact time a photo was taken and on what kind of phone. It's all about finding the data behind the data.
Because this data is so fragile, the absolute first step is always to preserve it. Screenshots, archives, whatever it takes. But the analysis is where it gets really clever. It's usually not about a single post. Investigators build these huge network graphs to map out who's connected to whom, who's liking whose posts, and when. It's about seeing the entire web, not just one single strand.
So here's the bottom line. Whether it's reading an email's passport stamps in reverse or analyzing the web of connections on a social media profile, pretty much everything we do online creates data. Every single action leaves a trace, a little breadcrumb that an investigator could potentially follow. And that really brings us to the final question to think about. In this world of cloud servers and data that can be deleted with a click, we are all creating this persistent, sometimes invisible digital footprint every single day. So, what clues are you leaving behind?